So last week we talked about summary and paraphrase, and we ended with, well, what if I don't want to use paraphrase, I want to use the voice of the author. And to do that, you need direct quotations. So I know that you guys know that direct quotations are words taken directly from the text and used in your writing, and that these words are not changed from the original, and that they require quotation marks around the phrase or the sentence used and an internal text at the end of the sentence, not in the middle. So for example, if this were my direct quotation that I'm taking from the text, you see I have things before it and after it. I wouldn't put my in-text citation here. I would put it at the end of the sentence there. The purpose of direct quotations are to support an established argument developed by the writer. That's you, right? This is to clarify and prove the thesis statement that you establish. You want to explain what the author of the text is doing and why she or he does it. And it also acts as evidence or proof that what is being said is logical and reasonable, and you didn't pull this out of thin air, right? Here it is in the text. This is where I found it, and this is why I'm right. So when should I use direct quotations? Well, direct quotations should be used sparingly. Like a hot spice, they either enhance or they spoil a meal. Instead of long sentences, it's best to take the best nugget or the most powerful portion of that sentence. And I'm going to talk more about that here in a second. So length and type and quality of direct quotations, you want to make sure that you keep your direct quotations short and under 2 lines. Don't put these great big old long chunks of text in your writing, because your voice should control the tone of the paper. Plus, if I wanted to read that much of the text, I could just read the story myself. So instead, paraphrase and then use that best little nugget or that line that you think really proves the point that you're trying to make. And you want to make sure that you choose quotes that enhance your work. So ask yourself, do they have a purpose? Do they fit with what I'm writing? Are they really an example of what I'm saying? And that they clarify your point to the reader rather than confuse them. So don't pick up a text and say, I really haven't read this story, I'm just going to wing it. I got all the information I need from LitChart, SparkNotes, Schmoop, wherever, and just haphazardly go through and pick quotes that you think are going to fit. No, you really want to take the time to read the story and make sure that the quotes you pick are appropriate and they really add strength to your writing. So how not to use quotes. You don't want to use quotes to tell the story. You want to assume that your reader and that your audience is a familiar one. They know the story that you're trying to analyze, and for all intents and purposes, as your most direct reader, I am familiar with the story, right? So you don't need to tell me what happens in the story. So, and you don't want to use quotes for the sake of filling up space. Man, I gotta get these 4 pages. The more quotes I use, the longer they are, the more space I'll have to fill up. No, you want to make sure that your quotes are relevant and meaningful, and that provides you an ample source of analysis. So, and like I said in the previous slide, you don't want to use quotes that are overly long. And then you never want to start or end a paragraph with a quote. And I'll come back to that at the end of this. So some common pitfalls that happen when trying to use direct quotations is something that I call the loose balloon quote, or quotes that are dropped in. the tutorial that you guys are going to take, it's called floating your quotes. Floating your quotes, the loose balloon, whatever you want to call them. Direct quotations need to be held down with your own writing. They can't just be plopped in with no kind of context that holds them down. If they're not held down with your writing, they are disconnected from your ideas. So in other words, they need to be integrated. And what does the word integrated mean? Well, it brings together two things. So you're weaving your words with the author's words in a way that's seamless and makes sense. So the big idea when you're integrating quotes is that you have an insightful claim of your own. Now you need to cite the sources that you found. And in order to do that, you need to transition smoothly your ideas with someone else's. So your primary or your secondary source. Some example of loose balloons, just so you get an idea of what I mean when I say that. These are non-integrated quotes. So right here, I have my thoughts, what I'm trying to say. Tim O'Brien voices the idea that mental burdens outweigh the physical agony that those in war must carry. So those are my ideas, those are my writing. And then right here, plop smack dab in the middle of that, I have a quote from the text. So you can see my thoughts, his thoughts. Oh, there we go, my thoughts again. So this is not, I haven't given you any kind of context to set you up for the quote that leads into it, that integrates my voice with the writer's. Another example of a loose balloon, here we have my thoughts where he's thinking about Martha, and then I have quotes from the text right here, smack dab in the middle. There's this end. You see that where I have a period here, and then I'm starting directly with this quotation. This is what I mean by it's not held down. You need to create a context where this fits with this. So another example, Jimmy Cross pretends to be somewhere else. That's my words, my thoughts. And then I have right here, plop down right after it, imagination was a killer, the words of the author. You get the idea. Here again, I have that my thoughts, the author's, and I don't have that context or that smooth transition between the two. Another example right here, and another one, this one has to do with Joyce Carol Oates and the story that you guys are reading for this week. I have music and popular culture form Connie's views of love and men, views that are steeped in fantasy and idealisms. Those are my words, those are my thoughts, and here I have something from the text, but I haven't set you up for that transition between my thoughts and the author's. So how do you fix it? Well, one way to fix it is you use signal phrases or phrases of attribution, and then a comma before the phrase that you're going to do. So you use a signal phrase and separate the quote with a comma. So for example, each of these soldiers deals with death and pain differently. Kiowa remarks, comma, the lieutenant is in some deep hurt. It was heavy hurt. The man cares. So here I have my words, and then I have some more of my words, that phrase of attribution, and then the author's words. So I have that context that's setting you up, that's transitioning from my words, these are all my words, and the author's words, and they all work together in a cohesive manner in the same sentence. Another way that you can fix it is introduce the quotation with a complete sentence and add a colon, not the body part, the punctuation mark. So here again, these are my thoughts, and then here I have my colon and the author's thoughts. So they work together in the same sentence. They are not separate any longer. My words and the author's words are together. And then this is probably my favorite way to do it because it keeps you from using overly long quotation marks. It's where you take the quotation or part of that quotation, that nugget, and you make it a part of your sentence. In other words, you provide an explanation of the author's big ideas and important quotes. So these are all my words. But here I have that one little phrase, burn the blame, that are integrated into my words. So I've got the authors, I got my proof, but all of these are my ideas. So another example, right here I have my words and the author's words. My words mixed with the author's words. They're all in the same sentence. I've given you a context, but I've also given you direct quotations. And here again is another example. All of my thoughts are integrated smoothly with the words of the authors. Now, there are 4 necessary parts to integrate your direct quotations. You have an introductory phrase with attribution, the small nugget that you take word for word, and then an in-text citation, and a sentence of explanation. And again, I know that we talked about this when we talked about body paragraphs, but for all intents and purposes, these are going to be like your body paragraphs in your literary analysis or in any other paper you write where you have to integrate research or primary source evidence. And again, the one formula that you can remember to do that is thinking about a slice of pie, where you have your point, your illustration, your information, and your explanation. So your point, again, is always going to be a topic sentence that indicates the main idea of the paragraph that's related to your thesis. Your topic sentence is never a quote, so you never start a paragraph with a quote. And it's typically not plot related. What I mean by that is don't begin by telling me something that happens in the story. It needs to be an assertion. Something that directly relates to your thesis. And then after you have your topic sentence, you want to provide your illustration or your information or your textual support that highlights your point. It can be a combination of paraphrase or direct quotation. And then finally, your explanation, where you connect the P to the I to the E. You want to explain or analyze how that evidence proves your point. How does this connect back to the so what theme meaning established in your thesis statement? So in other words, you explain your interpretation. How have you read these pieces of information that illustrate your point? Don't leave it up to me to assume or draw the conclusions that you are trying to make. You make those conclusions for yourself. And then right here, I have an example. This was taken from a student's paper not too long ago. And I've highlighted my topic sentence because it is assertive. It is an assertion. Arnold is what Connie is not: experienced, clever, and has evil intentions. And you can read through this paragraph because she provides some information or direct quotations that illustrate her point, and then she provides an explanation or an analysis. So let me know if you guys have any questions, and this is the kind of paragraph and things that I'm looking for your discussion boards this week.